Hello, everyone.
We're just gonna wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started.
Hope you're all excited. And then, indeed, let's kick it off a couple of minutes after 4. So, I hope you're all doing fine. Maybe for the people that are here already, both John and myself have a cold. So, probably you hear it a bit. So, we're very sorry if we cough from time to time. We're obviously going to try and make it a high energy webinar like we always try to do. But still, we're a bit sick as the weather in Belgium has not been great the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, we're a bit under the weather, but we're all good.
Everybody can hear us fine. If there's any issue, any question, you can always reach us on the webinar chat. Thank you.
Cool. So indeed, we can be reached via the chat. John has a screen open, so we should be able to see all of the questions coming in. But thanks all for joining. Again, we're super excited to have you all here and to discuss the Shopify Winter Editions 2025. So yeah, the goal of today's webinar is a bit like always. We're just going to go over some new features. Obviously, we're not going to discuss every single new feature that Shopify brought out because they have a lot of features. Probably you saw the list. That's probably why you're here. But next to that, we're also going to discuss a bit about Shopify's positioning and their ability to execute. So I think it's going to be a fun little session here. It's needless to say that, like John actually already said, that we're always reachable via chat. So please don't be shy and interrupt us wherever we are. I have the tendency to speak quite rapidly, but please make sure that that doesn't interrupt you from asking questions via the chat, or just I think that you can unmute yourself as well if you want to be part of the speaking committee here. So I would say let's dive into it. It's 1 minute past 4. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Trying to make sure that I can go to the next slide. Yes, here we go. So this is more or less the plan for today. So first of all, we're going to do a small introduction of Dear Digital. It's our biggest webinar yet, actually. So we're very excited and happy, to be honest. So it's also, I think, very relevant to just dive into Dear Digital for a couple of minutes. Maybe some of you don't know us yet. But then we're going to dive into the meat of the discussion, which is probably again why you're here. So we divided things up in POS retail updates, B2B updates, checkout updates, and then everything around scaling internationally. And then there is a very small topic at the end, which is pricing, because we get some questions about this in the last couple of months. And we also created some content around this that we wanted to share again as well. So in terms of Dear Digital, we're a technical e-commerce or commerce party with a focus on platforms that you see there. So Shopify, Odoo, Klaviyo, Gadget, and Firmhouse. Why did we choose these platforms? Because we really, really believe in them, and we really try to stand on the shoulders of giants. This is to make sure that we don't have to focus on the repetitive work as an agency. We really want to create as much value as possible. And I think that these platforms enable us to do exactly that for our customers. So this is why we chose these platforms. Hopefully you all like them. And if you have any feedback about them, please let us know as well. Then obviously we have quite a lot of services. You can see them listed out here, probably a lot of things that you know about. But if you have any questions about any of these services, please reach out. It's very important to also understand that we do implement Odoo and work with Odoo. So if you have any questions around ERP or other tools that Odoo might support, let us know. Then obviously all of this wouldn't be possible without our wonderful customers. We really had the opportunity, and we're really happy that we have been working with some of them over the last couple of years. So all power to them for sure. Thanks a lot for being our partners and being so awesome. Hopefully we can help some more awesome brands in the future, because that's obviously what drives us forward.
That's for sure the fun part indeed, is making sure that other companies that we can help them out with our services. I think that's been the most fun part of all.
Yes. But I see that we have a couple of chats, but it's not new ones probably, right?
No, it's somebody saying I am not really easy to be heard, but I'll check.
Maybe it's your stuffed nose. Maybe it's something else. But let's dive into it. Shopify's Winter Edition 2025, they branded it or called it themselves the Boring Edition, which is rather interesting. So you could ask yourself the question, why did they do this exactly? So yeah, from our perspective, obviously Shopify really is intentionally positioning themselves as like a long-term partner that also focuses on making sure that everything is there for a lot of different kinds of companies. Before Shopify, especially in the Benelux or in Europe and Belgium, they had the brand of being like a platform that could support mom and pop shops. But this is actually a long history because Shopify is really firing at all cylinders to make sure that they can also support bigger brands. And this is very broad in terms of B2B, B2C, POS, and retail. And if you want to do it in a decoupled way, so a headless way, a semi-decoupled way, or a monolithic approach, which we also obviously still support massively, there is a lot of opportunities on Shopify. There are a lot of possible options on Shopify. And really, Shopify wanted to position themselves in this way as well during this winter edition, just to make sure that the bigger companies also understand that Shopify really wants to do the necessary to support them and be a long-term partner for them. So this is really important. But Shopify wouldn't be Shopify if they didn't have a nice little twist to this boring edition. And I just wanted to really quickly go over the website of the winter edition. The websites, they are masterpieces of the editions. So I highly recommend checking out all of the different websites. But again, I just wanted to focus on the website of this edition as well. I'm just switching screens here. So basically, this is the boring approach of seeing all of the different features. So this is the list of the features where we went through and where we are going to pick some out of to discuss with you today. But you have a button here as well, which says not boring. And again, something will happen when I click on the screen here. And I just wanted to really acknowledge how cool of a feature they have built here. I will just quickly show it, and then I'll just share a couple of words about what it means to me or how I look at this crazy feat that they have made reality. So if we click here, you see a screen coming up. And normally you should be able to hear some sound, and I can now
accept contactless payments on your phone with Tap to Pay.
This is quite a marvelous update indeed. Now you can guarantee quoted prices by locking the price until the order is complete.
So, I mean, it's just insane. They have the content basically of the website and they show it in a boring way. But then, and we live in a crazy time, right? With AI, they actually made this content completely viewable in a multimodal way. So they generated the audio, they generated the video, they generated all of the images, and they created all of this in a wonderful new website. So basically, it's again, like for me personally, that's why I love Shopify so much. It's like they do the boring stuff, they do the important stuff, but they also make it really, really fun. And I just want to make sure that you guys also think about this internally, because maybe your website could also be displayed in this way. There is no need to stick with the old paradigms in which we check websites. Again, it's super nice to make it also visually more attractive and from a multimodal way also very inspiring. So again, I just wanted to inspire everybody as Shopify does from time to time. And this could obviously increase your customer engagement and also expand your brand.
It's definitely worth checking out because it's been each edition, the website has been better and better, and I'm looking forward to the next edition actually and see the website.
So, but here we go with the more feature-specific parts of the presentation. So first of all, we're going to go over the POS and retail updates. So it's obvious that Shopify is investing massively both in B2B and retail. This is the opportunity for them in the next couple of years, and then obviously tying them all in B2C, POS, and B2B. So we're going to go over a couple of features that we found very exciting and that we see that our customers needed and are starting to implement them with our customers that are approaching commerce in a more unified way, which is what Shopify is trying to help us do. Customer meta fields. So obviously we all know, hopefully, what meta fields are. I'm just going to explain it very shortly. Basically, it's a way to expand the data model of Shopify. So you can actually add more fields to certain records in Shopify. So in this case, we're talking about customer meta fields. So basically, this is a way from the settings in Shopify, you can create those meta fields linked to a specific customer. And you can make those fields whatever you want. And now, with the new release that we're talking about right now, these extra meta fields or extra data points, they will also be available in the POS terminal of Shopify. So to make it very concrete, I would like to show this. So this is what we have built internally, because we have a really cool little retail setup here as well, where we showcase the unified commerce approach to our customers that want to come in and see and feel it. But basically what we did here is we created an extra field for the birthday of a person, of a customer, and then also the name of a child, for example. And so you see it in the first screenshot, which is the one behind, where we created those meta fields, and then you see them pop up here in front in the POS terminal itself. And so why is this so important? Because obviously Shopify wants to create the system in which because data obviously is super important, they want to create it or make it as easy as possible to make sure that all of your employees working in retail or online can make sure that we get as much data about our customers in our platform, in this unified platform as possible. And this customer meta fields feature really allows us to do this.
And I think the data here is structured. I think that's the important part, because you could always take notes with somebody and you could always fill in like flat text. But in this case, it's actually data that you can then later use to segment, later use to do whatever you think is necessary to, for example, report on it and all of these things. So yeah, it's really cool.
And so, I mean, it's easy because it's so flexible with the meta field, so you can expand your data model. But then again, also it's implemented in such a way that it's easy and beautiful from a UI perspective to be used by the employees, for example, in your store. So it's super cool that you can expand, but also that it's delivered in a way that people really want to use it and fill it in, basically, in a structured way, like John said. Then a smaller one, but offline payments. So obviously Shopify is based on everything that has to do with the web. So mostly everything was only possible when it was connected to the internet, basically. But now they're trying to make sure that those edge cases, when the networks fail or whatever, that you can still process payments. Now, it's very important to also understand that maybe this is only for some payment methods. And obviously you lose a lot of security when you make sure that these payments are done offline, because it's not checked if the credit card, for example, has enough money on it, etc. So again, this is a nice feature. It caters to people when there are some issues in the physical locations, which can obviously happen from time to time. But it just shows how Shopify is expanding to make sure that a lot of the retail edge cases are fixed. Then retail customer segments. Again, I'm also trying to invoke some thoughts in your mind, because obviously you're looking at this to make your business better. And I'm super excited about these kinds of features where, for example, the retail customers can be segmented. So obviously, I mean, so just to explain it, you have your locations in Shopify, which could be retail locations. And you obviously have also people that place orders. You have their address because you have to send stuff to them, basically, if they order something online. And what you can now do is, because the location of your, the real location of your physical retail location is known, you can try to build the community around your retail location by segmenting the customers that you have, because you know their location, you know the location of your retail location. So you can basically bring this all together and segment to specific customers so that you can create this local community for your shop.
I think, for example, if you have like, let's say you have a new coffee machine or something and you want to celebrate that with your existing customers, you can invite all of them, like located close to your shop, like, hey, we have something new. Exactly. Maybe you should come by, swing by the store, and let's have something let's have a coffee, for example.
Yeah. So it just makes it really easy to segment and to focus on specific customers that you think you can do something with, that could make sure that you grab the customers closer to the brand and your company, basically. Ship to store. This is a feature that has been talked about a lot. There are a lot of unified commerce flows that are also very close to this one. But now ship to store is available on all of the different plans on Shopify. So it's for all the different merchants. Again, this is also another way to make sure that if people are buying online, to make sure that they come to your store, because you can talk to them then, you can ask them why they bought a specific product, which obviously can have an impact on your AOV, your lifetime value of your customer, and make sure that your brand is augmented again by another experience that the customer had. So shipping to store is now available, and for online customers, yeah, this is possible now as well. UI and UX improvements. This is actually a combination of a couple of features that they brought out. But for us as well, like 2025 is like the year of unified commerce, obviously, because Shopify is also pushing this. And we did quite a lot of interactions with retail, people that have retail stores. And two big things came out of that, and that's that staff is obviously a hard one to solve for and also costly. So like the staff that you have in your retail locations, you have to make sure that they understand the systems that you work with. There is quite a lot of people that switch around typically in these statuses or as a staff member. And then the second big topic is inventory. So obviously you want to make sure that you judge how much inventory you should have as good as possible, because that's a big cost for retailers. And so the first one, staff, that I discussed first, is super important, obviously, that your UX and your UI of the systems that you use are as easy to understand as possible. Because you obviously want your employees to really work with those systems. So all of the UX and UI improvements that Shopify does from a POS standpoint are actually very, very important, because this propagates throughout your whole organization and actually have a large impact on how those employees sell in those physical locations. So there are quite a lot of new changes to make the UI and the UX just smoother, faster, more effective, etc. One of the things that we discussed obviously before was everything around these customer meta fields. And so again, if you allow your staff to fill them in because you make it easy and nice to fill in, this could have a huge benefit down the line. So we're actually also going to do a other event in Kortrijk this time, probably at the end of next month, I think, where we will go over a POS implementation, so a unified commerce implementation, because it's both POS and also an online store. So if you feel that you're interested in this type of setup, please, make sure that you follow all of the channels, because we will organize an event in Kortrijk really soon. We're going to discuss all of these things and show you the flows that really help them to build their business in a better way. Then let's shift gears to B2B, because again, like I said before, POS is a major part for Shopify to, sorry, the cold is getting to me. So the POS part is really big, and also the B2B updates are huge and important. Account extensions, they really are now fully accessible. So what are account extensions and why are they so important? So first of all, maybe it's important to understand what the new account system of Shopify really comprises out of. So maybe you have read that, so before we had the account structure in Shopify, it was liquid based, it was with a password, etc. Now the new accounts, which are now the defaults on Shopify, they are actually passwordless. So you don't have to save your password somewhere. And also you can now extend those accounts with the extension, the UI extensions of Shopify. So making actually this also a bit like the checkout of Shopify, where Shopify really owns basically the account structure. And this makes sure that Shopify can work its magic also on this part. So like they try to make sure that the account is fast, it's up to date, it's secure, they also are now going to make sure that the full account structure is secure and fast, etc., but also very extensible. And so when the platform then updates, we are allowed to extend the system, but it's not like when the system is then updated that the extensibilities are not relevant anymore. And now the account structures are fully extensible with full page extensions.
I think that's a really important note is I think Shopify has shifted from customizations or more of the possibility to actually custom edit your account with a few frustrations, I believe, now to account extensibility. And I think the concept is just different. And in the end, is much better for the merchant also that it's extensible, that the security is handled by Shopify.
Yes.
And that we as a technical agency or other people can actually extend the account structure and do whatever we need to do to make sure that the last 20% or something of the experience is actually updated.
Yes, and we have a couple of examples of this because sometimes it's a bit hard to really grasp those concepts, but all of the things that you will see from here on, they are built on the account extensions, basically. So again, these are B2B focused. So the first one that we wanted to touch base upon, and it's actually funny because those three are really examples that we hear a lot about in terms of requirements for our B2B customers that want to go to Shopify. The first one is that you can create everything around quotations and pro forma invoices in your account structure. So normally if a B2B company or a company wants to place an order on a B2B store, sometimes they need to make sure that the offer is accepted. So normally you build your order basically, but you cannot buy it just yet because maybe some manager needs to sign off on this specific order. So what then happens is you create your order in the backend and you can actually download the quotation PDF from the system itself so that you can fully automate the full flow from quotation or pro forma invoice to a real order. And so this is now possible with the page extensions, with the UI extensions that I was talking about before, that you can take care of this all within the account structure itself. So these are some draft orders basically in the account structure, and you can export a PDF of the quotations so you can make sure that your manager can accept them and then place the order obviously also from this overview and make sure that you go from a draft order to a real order. Another one is, one of the things that you see a lot in the different systems that we use day to day in Amazon and in LinkedIn, etc., is that you can download your invoices right away from the account structure. So you can add features to the order lines where you can say that you want to download a specific invoice. And you can do all of this based on the account extensions, a very important, obviously, one for B2B customers. Then another one, which is actually quite funny, but we really came across this a couple of times already, is that you, based on the extensions that we're discussing right now, that you can create tools or apps, and these are also public apps partly, where you can upload a CSV from your account structure on a B2B store. That transforms this as a CSV file into a draft order, basically, or into an order. So sometimes companies, or the systems that other companies work with, they spit out a certain list of products that they want to buy. Instead of then typing over or like making the order manually, you actually just want to take this file that is created by a certain platform and you want to upload it into another platform, in this case, the store that you want to buy stuff from. And so this is actually really easy to make sure that you don't make human mistakes and that you can just upload it and dump it in there. So all of these are just based on the UI extensions and the account extensibilities that are live already. And all of those make the B2B ordering life way more easy.
I think it's also with CSV, it's much more of a collaborative effort also within the team. So you can actually download the whole catalog, then you can send over the catalog. People can fill in all of their necessary orders, and they fill in the quantities, then you upload it back again, and the complete order is placed in one go with one upload, actually.
Yep. Then another conceptually important one. So there are a couple of ways that you can extend Shopify in. I'm already discussing extensions now for a while, and I was focusing now on the UI extensions, which is a way to transform Shopify. But there is a second big way to transform Shopify, and that's with Shopify functions. And with Shopify functions, you can actually change the backend logic of Shopify, basically. And before, these extensions, they only were available in the checkout of the online store. So if you were doing an online order, these functions, for example, you could say specific discount rules, etc. Those can be created with Shopify functions. They only had effect basically on the Shopify checkout. Now, because they want to support B2B orders more, B2B orders are also sometimes created, like we discussed before, with human interaction. And if there is a human in the loop, typically those orders are placed with draft orders or via draft orders. And then the functions and the UI extensions, they were actually not relevant to, or they were not applied to the draft orders. Now Shopify made sure that the functions that you created and the extensions that you created are also valid for the draft orders. One of the examples here is, for example, if you have a limit that you want to make sure that people cannot place orders underneath 300 euros, then you obviously could do this with Shopify functions. And then if people went to the checkout, they got an error message saying if your order is below 300, you cannot check out, basically. Back in the days, before the feature that we are now discussing released, you could still make a draft order underneath 300 euros, and you didn't get the error message, for example. Now, with the fact that you can, or that Shopify supports it for draft orders as well, you create those functions and you create them both for online checkout and for the draft order process. This makes sure that all of the workflows or all of the business logic that you have as a business is not only applied on the checkout, but also applied on the draft order flows, which again is very important from time to time in B2B orders, as those typically tend to be larger orders, and with larger orders sometimes comes human involvement, and you obviously want to make sure that people don't make mistakes on that front. So this is another huge one where you can extend Shopify like crazy.
I think in that way it's a boring update, but it just
You find it boring already, John?
it just works, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the idea, is that it just needs to work. And if draft orders are big in the B2B space, which makes complete sense, then obviously functions need to extend up until draft orders. So
Yes,
makes a lot of sense.
exactly. Automated account setup, another one that we came across, quite a couple of times, to be honest, in the RFPs that we get from time to time, specifically for B2B RFPs or stores that also have a B2B part. Why is this so important? Again, we want to automate as much as possible. Again, as much as possible. We still want the humans to be in the loop from time to time, obviously. But what they have created here, and I'm going to make a meta point about this in the next slide, is that people wanted to be able to be subscribed via a form on the website and then given access automatically to the B2B store. Because normally in a B2B store, you have to be granted access to buy stuff, right? Because you want to have a certain layer of, I think there are questions being asked.
Yeah, apparently I'm not easy to hear.
Okay,
I'll try and solve it.
So now you can make sure that people fill in a certain form on your website. Then obviously a customer is created in the backend. A company is also created if you did it in a certain way, setting up the form. And then you can actually add that customer to this company in Shopify. But then, as you all know, B2B, in B2B, it's very important to have certain price lists, for example, applied to a certain company or a certain customer, and also other checkout settings. So what you can now do is automate that full process so that people can go from filling out a form to being able to log into the system, again, passwordless, like we said before, is actually done fully automatic. And this is actually done right now with Shopify Flow, which is something, again, that Shopify has been expanding just constantly, which actually makes a lot of flows, or building a lot of flows, way more easy without code even. So this is the flow that actually allows you to make sure that people, if they fill out a form, then you can have them given access to the B2B platform like fully automatically. And then for the people that are a bit more interested in the technical stuff, I will not make it too long, but this, looking at the send admin API request, is actually a very important one as a last step here in your Shopify flow, because basically what Shopify has enabled is that every single API that Shopify has, so yeah, it's like a way to try and extend Shopify basically, right? You can now use from Shopify Flow. So basically you have a no-code way to use all of the things that developers can use to extend your Shopify store. And this is really, really exciting because again, this makes sure that you can build these workflows no code in Shopify using Flow. So this can be huge.
I'm not sure, but apparently I'm very hard to hear, but Flow has been something that comes up in every RFP, in every project that we do now. It's so essential to how Shopify works these days, and how crazy it is that you can now, like Sam says, with no code, really build on top of Shopify. Because every company has their own, thanks. Every company has their own, obviously workflows, and these can now be implemented way easier than before.
Yep. Mic back to me. And then another big one for bigger companies that might have a bit more complex tech stacks is that you can now have custom identity providers included in Shopify. So imagine that you have, as a company, different systems. So imagine that Dear Digital has a website, right? And you can order as well online. Then we might use specific platforms for those specific services, from a website to a content part to a web shop. Before, it was really hard to make sure that if people, for example, logged in to the website part or the content part, to also make sure that they are logged in already without needing to log in again on the web shop part, on the web store part, which could be done by Shopify. Now Shopify has actually expanded into making sure that they have everything available to make sure that we can do the identity provisioning or providing so that people are logged in already to Shopify as well. So again, this is a very important one for customer experience. If you have multiple systems in which you can make sure that Shopify has all of this provided for. Then we do have some checkout updates. So let's dive into them. Yeah, a really important one actually. So probably or hopefully you have all heard about checkout blocks. Checkout blocks is a free app that is actually it was made by somebody else, but then this person, he got actually introduced into Shopify. So basically Shopify bought the app from a guy, and this guy now works at Shopify, and his app was called Checkout Blocks. And because it was so well done, Shopify really wanted to buy this app, and now they actually provide it to all of their merchants for free. Which is again very interesting to do a lot of stuff with a no-code approach, while actually making the checkout a lot more flexible, so that you can change it for the better for your specific store. And now this app is actually available to all of the different types of stores, right, in Shopify, all of the different plans. And what can you do now with checkout blocks? And again, I really would push you guys to have a look at this. For example, easy or make sure to easily add a certain upsell block or whatever to the checkout. This is all easy to do now without code with the checkout blocks application of Shopify. Another one is that we see a lot is adding, for example, notes in your checkout. So again, this is all built with UI extensions on the checkout of Shopify, but now the Checkout Blocks app actually uses those the UI extensions to make all of this happen and make sure that you can add this without needing to use any code. Again, this is then also update free. Shopify also makes sure that this doesn't has a big impact on the speed of your checkout. Again, these are all very important points, obviously, of why Shopify is so interesting, because you can actually build it out because it's very flexible, but still make sure that you maintain your security and how fast Shopify really is, which is obviously very important. This is why quite a lot of WooCommerce players come to us to maybe migrate to Shopify, because there you have all the flexibility in the world, obviously, but you bolt it all together and then you get like a hard system to maintain, and which also tends to be slower from time to time. So here you have the flexibility while Shopify is actually really charging to make it as fast and as secure as possible. Another one is that you can hide and rename and reorder certain shipping methods or certain payment methods. Again, this is all possible now without using code with the checkout blocks. So I highly recommend you guys checking this out to make your checkout as valuable as possible for your customers. Any questions, John? Still alive and kicking?
Yeah.
Okay. Speed improvements. So obviously Shopify really always tries to pack in some speed improvements on all of the different fronts. Will it be the admin, or is it the cart, or is it the checkout? Again, to make both the user experience from a merchant side, but also from a customer side for the parts that they really own, which is the checkout and the account and the cart and the APIs, to make it as fast as possible. And they did this again during the winter editions to make sure that the checkout actually loads way smoother, so that you see stuff popping up at the right time, so that you don't have to wait and then all of a sudden your checkout is there. They want to make it a smooth process, so the customers can have the feeling that they have a good checkout experience. Then the cart is loaded way faster. This is also, I think, if I remembered correctly, very important for the headless setups, because we need to use the API for the cart there, and we can now fetch the cart way faster. Obviously, this is extremely important because if you have your cart way faster, you can go to the checkout way faster. So this is an important improvement there in terms of speed. And then I don't know how big this still is. We have some customers that really doubled down on this, but others that just don't use it. But you have the accelerated checkout buttons, for example, for PayPal or for Shop Pay. We have some other ones as well, like Google, indeed, Apple Pay, etc. They were typically a bit of a pain in the ass, to be really honest. And now everything is a bit faster, basically. Again, so that people can click really fast to just check out. Again, it's an accelerated checkout button. And before, they used to be a bit slower in terms of loading. And now it's actually getting way faster. Again, I'm breathing from time to time also to make space for people to ask some questions. If we didn't touch upon something, if something is not clear enough, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just steam right through. Another thing possible in the checkout is to disable gift cards. It's also one of the questions that we had over the years. And now via API, you can actually make sure that the gift cards are just enabled on certain checkouts. You can just thus also add business logic that in some cases gift cards are not possible to be added in the checkout, and this is all available through an API.
Do you know of an example? Do you know of an example where that was relevant?
Yeah, I think I remember the case, but I can be wrong because it's a year and a half ago or something that I remember of. It's when you have specific discounts or like specific periods in the year where you discount your products quite a lot, and they didn't want to be able to additionally be paid by gift cards or something.
Okay.
So this was something that before it was just not possible to hide this, and now you have control over when to show it and when not to show it.
Okay.
Then actually a huge one, so we might want to spend some time on this, is that Shopify has obviously from the beginning, maybe that's a bit too positive, but since a couple of years, they actually have been working quite a lot to make scaling internationally via Shopify as easy as possible. This includes obviously everything that they did not wrong, but was really hard to do on Shopify like a couple of years ago, like add all of the translations and stuff. So they now have added this. But next to that, you can now, with the markets setup that you probably all know about, start to customize the experience for customers in other markets as much as possible and as easy as possible. And they're actually going to take another step, and they're going to completely overhaul the admin of how you can organize your international selling efforts. So this will be really excited. I'm personally extremely excited about it because it also yeah, it just shows that Shopify also continues to completely reevaluate how the admin looks and how they want to make sure that merchants have control over their business. And so this is really an example of how they are really showing that they want to do this. I think I'm just going to show, we have a question, but I'm just going to show this real quick. So this is how it will look, and this will roll out normally in the next couple of months. So this is a release that has not been released yet. I think they're putting people on this on a rolling effort. But in the next couple of months, everybody should, I think, have this. The question, or?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. Vinicius is asking, would it make it possible to have discounts available depending on the customer's time zone? For example, Black Friday hits on Friday, obviously, and Friday doesn't hit everywhere.
Yeah, it's a very, very good question indeed.
So it's based on markets that the discount only goes live on a certain time period.
To be honest, I think that extremely interesting question. I think you have to do this with Shopify functions. I'm not sure if they will build it in already completely from the admin, where you can make sure that from the discounts in the Shopify admin, that you would be able to say enable or disable depending on the market. They obviously are going in that direction. So again, this is why I'm so excited, just as you, I think, that what you see here will enable all of this, or start to enable all of this. So before, it was actually you had the Shopify system, and then they placed like a kind of an internationalization layer on top of it. Now the internationalization layer goes really in the core of Shopify, so that you can enable all of the things that Shopify has, such as discounts, be dragged into making it possible to select it depending on the market in which you are. But I think in the first versions, you will still need to do this with functions, because obviously you know from which market people are visiting the checkout, and so you could enable and disable, or also on your theme, on your front end, so you could tackle it from the start of the experience, where you can allow it or disallow it, and thus say, for example, this discount code is not available yet in your market, for example. It will only be available at that specific time. But I do not think that they will enable it from the start. So very, very, very good question, to be honest. But again, going back to this screen, first of all, you see all of the markets here above, or some of the markets. Again, super important to just understand, because it looks very obvious, like Shopify always makes it look. But having your analytics completely on a market basis or on a sales channel basis is really important, again, for the future, where you can, with one store, actually cater a lot of different sales channels and also markets. So just making sure that you have this ability, or this part in the system where everything is actually fenced off, basically, and you can check how your market is doing and what the analytics are for every single market. Then this is basically the control center, where you can now see in one view how your store or your selling efforts are actually going. You have all of the different markets nicely listed up in one view. You have all of the different sales channels, for example, B2B or POS, also listed there. And then here, and this is really important, where I drew the rectangle around, and it's actually a bit based on the question that was asked, where the current customizations that you will have on this market level approach. So you see 3 signs here, basically. And the first one is that you will be completely able to change or customize your price listing and which products are available in which markets. So basically, you now should look, and this is why I'm so excited about it, that Shopify just holds your full catalog of products. And this can even be localized products, so to say. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to open a specific market, and I'm going to only show the products that are relevant for this specific market, for example. And this is because you can change your price list, and you can select which products will be available in which market. So this is a customization that you can do on top of this markets setup. Another thing, and this is really crazy as well, is that you will be able to fully customize your theme per market So not like we currently see that you can just adjust your team a bit depending on the market and the selection that you make in your team editor, but you can basically also select a completely different team, I think, on a market level. So this will make sure that you can customize your full experience based on the market that you want to sell into, which again creates a whole next level of flexibility and obviously also ability to sell in that specific market. And then the third one is that you will be able to change your domains, which is something that we're already getting used to, define all the languages that you want in that specific market. But this is a big one, but this will be only Shopify Plus, I think, is that you can also couple a specific business unit in those markets to a specific market. So imagine that you are a Shopify Plus owner, you're growing in the United States, you're also growing in Europe, and you have an LLC in the US and you have a whatever type of company in Europe, then you can actually really link the different business entities to specific markets. And this will allow you to pay out your different currencies to different accounts that are linked to different business entities and so on and so forth. Again, just to show you that Shopify is just completely reimagining which kind of customers and merchants that they want to help and which types of flexibilities that you will have in the future.
I have a question for you. Would you think this is like the groundworks also for, imagine you have a business in the US and you want to start a franchise in Europe? You can actually say, hey, person Y, person X, start from within our own Shopify, and from that part actually start your store, do your customizations, only give them access to that certain area.
Yeah, so indeed, everything around permissioning is also something that is included here. I'll actually touch upon it in the later slide as well. But indeed, the broader you go in terms of bigger companies, the more that you want to make sure that certain teams are only focused on certain markets and you want to give them only access to those markets. If there are external teams, yes, you could be able to do this and permission everything on a store level. Again, huge, because before it was like, okay, you give somebody access to a specific store and that's basically it. Then they came out with all of the different permissionings that you were able to make discounts or orders or team changes, etc. So this was already a big step. And now you can do this on all of those different vectors that we see right here in terms of markets, in terms of different sales channels, etc. So yeah, this allows you to manage everything from one store basically, which is again huge. No more having the feeling a bit that Shopify pushes you to needing to have different stores on Shopify. Now they're actually aligning with you basically. This is obviously also because they want to put as much revenue as possible on Shopify, but they don't want to make sure that there is the hurdle that you have to make those different stores, because if you have different stores, it's hard to manage your inventory and it's hard to sync all of the data to the different stores. So this is what they want to solve with this setup. Then organize your stores. This is a bit counter to what I just said. So if you still need different stores, or if you have different stores at this point in time, Shopify also made it easier to manage those stores, because now you can actually add an organization to Shopify and put all of the different stores underneath that organization. Again, this makes it way easier to manage different stores. And you can also, on another level, add permissioning, for example, or organize permissioning, than having to manage your permissioning in all of the different stores. So it will be easier to, for example, onboard different profiles, or indeed it will be easier to onboard different people for all of those different stores or markets. Okay, then we actually move, because I see we have more or less 12 minutes left. So we will have some time for questions as well. But we just wanted to dive into the pricing sheet real quick. We made quite a lot of content, and we actually get, so we made the content because we get a lot of questions. And so we just wanted to make sure that you know where all of this is. I see that somebody raised their hand, right? So maybe we can...
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think Eric,
maybe via the chat.
yeah, I think
first
that will be the best option indeed.
Yes. And then we can give the floor to you.
It was a mistake.
Okay, no problem, Eric. Again, if you want to say something later on, please feel free. But so in terms of pricing sheets, we made quite a lot of content to make sure that especially the Shopify Plus pricing flow is or the pricing structure is clear. So there are 2 videos that we uploaded. First, Shopify Plus pricing. That's John who made this. So we have a Google Sheet that we made available where we added all of the calculations already. So and we can just share that link with you as well, so that you can play around with it. You don't need to build the model yourself. So we just made it easy for you to play around and see what the costs are if the revenues go up, etc. This is personally for me one of the things that I really like about the pricing. Obviously, there are a lot of things that are more awkward because nobody likes to pay, right? But the nice thing is that it's extremely transparent, and so you can actually build it into your business model or how you want to organize your finances, because you know how much you're going to pay if you do 1 million. You know already how much you're going to pay if it's 10 million, 100 million, whatever. Again, because so much is jammed into what you get from Shopify, you don't need to worry about hosting if you go 100x or if you go 100x on a specific day. Everything is included. And again, this is why they can offer such transparent pricing. Something else is everything around the cost of payments, and if you have POS or B2B. So this is a video that I made because obviously it's sometimes very intransparent when you have all of those different payment methods, from bankcontact to credit cards in Europe, B2B credit cards, international credit cards, etc. How much it actually is going to cost you if you go to Shopify, or if you go to Shopify Payments, or if you have your own pricing from your payment provider like Molly or Adyen. So we made this file as well to make sure that you can play around with this and understand what your cost structure will be. Then I think we actually are through all of the bigger topics that we wanted to discuss. So we now have some time for a Q&A, to answer some questions.
I sorry to already go for a question here, but I think we've discussed this before, but what you just showed of Shopify Markets, it kind of paves the way for what you would say multi-brand. Is that true, or would you say that's not the case?
So I wonder how many Shopify people are listening to this as well. But no, but what John is referring to indeed is that we come across, and it's maybe weird to some people in the audience, but we come across a lot of companies that actually have different brands underneath their company, for example, a holding company. And they want to make sure that their tech stack is as aligned and across those brands as possible. But indeed, normally when you have a Shopify Plus contract, for example, you can only have this for one brand. So this would mean that if you have different brands on Shopify Plus, you actually need to make a Shopify Plus store for all of these different brands. Now, we have actually put live a project that we're really, really proud of, to be honest, a fully headless Shopify implementation where we put different headless websites of different brands on one Shopify Plus instance or store. And this has a multitude of pros to it, positives to it, that you can make sure that all of the data is again in one store, that all of the inventory lives in one store, and that you can cross-sell and upsell if the same customer obviously applies to all of those different brands, and so that you can cater your customer in a better way. Compared to having all of those different stores, all of these different checkouts, all of these different account structures, all of these different email marketing automation integrations, or all of these different ERP integrations through all of those different stores. So we actually made it easier, and we made the customer experience a whole lot more inviting. And thus, yes, the answer partly to your question is yes, this opens the door towards these kinds of setups. At this point in time, from what we understand, it's mostly for headless implementations. But the question or the discussion is for sure ongoing how this will be affected if you go for an online store, so a native Shopify front-end implementation.
Yeah. Because if you go back to your screenshot, you actually see that it's actually the same model, right? They are already showing a few other brands underneath there. If it's in a different market, actually it's the same for Shopify and in that way. But
Well, the interesting thing, how I personally, but again, these are decisions that Shopify makes, right? But from my perspective, Shopify just wants as much revenue on Shopify as possible. And if those are different brands, it doesn't really actually matter. You just want to put them on Shopify and have this revenue stream through Shopify. And so, yeah, if those are different brands, it doesn't matter. You just make sure that the revenue is all on Shopify. So I think that their business model is aligned to making sure that this is also possible. Yes. Exactly like you have the markets before you needed to have different stores for different markets. And now they say, no, we want to make sure we're fully aligned with our customers. And thus we want to make it as easy as possible. And then obviously you end up making sure that the experience is through one store because that's the easiest for the merchant basically to handle everything. Any questions from the audience, maybe instead of John, who has questions?
there is. Yeah. Vinicius is asking, does this implementation, headless with the multiple brands, allow the stores to share the customer's cart within each other than buying it in a single order?
So yes, if that is relevant to your setup, yes, we can share carts. So how we organize it, because again, it's actually a very good question that we came across in this implementation that we did, is if people click from one website or one brand to the next from the website itself, then we enable taking your cart with you because the other user journey could be that people just land on the website and then land on the different website, which is the different brand of the same company. But they don't really understand that it's from the same company, basically. They just arrived on it via Google or whatever. Then we don't enable sharing the cart. So we actually try to look at it from a perspective where we think about the user experience and we can basically decide what we think is best for the user experience and only enable it in certain cases. Yes. So it is possible to share. Any other questions in these last 4 minutes? By the way, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully we did well. Very, very happy to receive some feedback of things that we can do better next time. This is really nice to hear so that we can, because we're in a room alone, it's always nice to get some feedback. So please share whenever you think it's necessary or can help. And if we don't have a lot more questions, I would say more or less we end the webinar. John, any final words or you're happy? Thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, talk to all of you soon and let us know if you have any questions via email, via whatever website. You can reach us via different channels. Cheers, have a good day and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.